Since the subject matter is NGCP, today present is the President, Mr. Anthony Almeida, who we've invited several times. And in the last hearing, there was a request that a subpoena be issued, but we opted to still invite him. And I would like to thank him for coming in today's hearing. Since kayo naman po ang subject matter, may we hear from you first before questions are asked.
Good afternoon to all.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chairman. Good afternoon all to the congressmen who are all here. I'd like to read Mr. C's opening statement. Mr. C intended to attend today's proceeding after his pre-scheduled morning appointment with the embassy. However, he was unfortunately held up and cannot make it to Congress on time. He sends his sincere apologies, and he asked me to deliver this statement on his behalf. Mr. Chairman.
Please.
NGCP is a Filipino corporation, and we run the company as Filipinos. We bought the transmission business from the government in 2007 in an open public bidding at the cost of almost $4 billion. We did this in good faith and in accordance with the PIRA law passed by Congress. This was not a negotiated bid, but was a solicited contract subjected to public bidding. We followed the law, we followed the contract you gave us to sign, we followed the regulator. As the operator of the transmission system of the country, we are a partner of the government in the energy sector. We have undertaken to pay PISAM $3.95 billion as concession fee. We have also invested so much into improving the system, almost 400 billion pesos as of the end of 2024. We have increased the capacity of the transmission system to transmit power 865 times compared to Transco. We have taken up the government's directive to loop the entire country with the completion of the Mindanao-Visayas interconnection project. We have also finished the Cebu-Negros-Panay interconnection, the Cebu-Bohol interconnection, and the Hermosa-San Jose backbone. We are not in breach of our franchise, our concession agreement, and the Philippine Grid Code. The price the consumer pays for the transmission services have gone down significantly since Transco ran it in 2008. Our portion of the bill is only 3%, but we find the other 97% has not been subjected to the same scrutiny. On our projects and alleged delays, if there's any delay, there can be directly attributed to the delays in right-of-way procurement, the long permitting process, and most significantly, ERC's delay. We have more than 100 projects pending approval with the ERC, and these projects have waited for approval for almost 4 years on the average. The last regulatory reset conducted was for the period of 2011 and to 2015. Since then, we have not been given a revenue scheme that reflects the development needs of the transmission system. Despite no clear revenue stream and uncertain recovery, we continued to invest into the grid. We continued to build, and we continued to serve our country. Even now, we are locked in discussions with the ERC, who chooses to penalize us for every little delay, and refuse to acknowledge their part in the regulatory mess the energy industry finds itself in. We follow the rules you set, the contracts you drafted, and the franchise you passed into law. We have done our job. We have bent over backwards to pursue our mandate and hold our end of the concession agreement. Our SCADA system is a secure, standalone, isolated system that is not connected to any other network. It is not connected to the internet, and it cannot be remotely hacked. It is NGCP alone, through its Filipino directors and personnel, and not the Chinese, which has the control over the system operations. The Chinese do not have control over the grid. There is no proverbial single red button that can instantly turn off the grid. There are protocols that actually prevent this. NGCP's procurement of goods and services included the updated SCADA system from NARI is through a competitive selection process as required by the ERC. The State Grid Corporation of China does not exercise control over the power grid nor over NGCP. Domestic corporations Monte Oro Grid Resources Corporation and Kalakahay Power Corporation each hold 30%, or a total of 60% of the outstanding capital stock of NGCP, whereas SGCC only holds a minority share of 40%. SGCC's shareholding in NGCP is consistent with the Constitution. Moreover, during the bidding of the concession agreement, the government required the participation of financially and technically capable participants. Since the operation of the transmission business has always been monopolized by the state, only foreign participants possess the relevant with domestic and international experience and expertise to operate transmission system comparable to the Philippine transmission grid. As to why we choose to partner with SGCC, I direct this question to the former owner. He bought into the Chinese. When I bought the shares in 2010, the Chinese were already there. Similarly, the shareholders' agreement that has been the topic of so much speculation was already there when we stepped into the former owner's shoes. But I do not wish to throw stones. I also want solutions. Speaking as a businessman, we need stability, not just in the energy supply, but also in law, policy, and regulation. I strongly urge the DOE to look into the problem as a whole. The data is clear: 97% of the power interruptions from 2016 to 2013 was caused by problems in supply. We need stable, affordable baseload power. We need comprehensive aligned plan and considers the need to all sectors. We are willing to be part of the solution, but transmission should not be the solution for everyone's problems. For DOE, ERC, and Transco, NGCP, and IMAP, we should work together hand in hand to have a better energy plan. God bless us all. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mr. Anthony Almeida. That was the statement of Mr. C.
Yes,
Junior.
Mr. Chairman. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Thank you very much. I will be asking you the first question, but before that, I'd like to acknowledge some members who have arrived. The Deputy Majority Leader, the Honorable Franz Pumaren of the 3rd District of Quezon City, the Honorable Bong Teves Jr. of DGP Party List, and of course, the hardworking Stella Luz Kimbo of the 2nd District of Marikina City. Welcome to the committee hearing. The chairperson of ERC is here also. May please raise your hand. The chairperson, the Honorable Dimolanta. Yes, ma'am. Welcome to this hearing. Na-late kayo. Yung isang hearing, hindi kayo na-late. Ngayon, na-late kayo. Mukhang may meeting pa. Anyway, thank you very much, Mr. Almeida, for appearing before this committee. And thank you for your manifestation and the manifestation of Mr. C, that indeed you're here to solve problems. You're here to help solve these problems. And of course, a lot of questions will be asked later because of the presentation made. But I just would like to ask one question. Regardless of the percentage, because you claim it's 3%, in last week's hearing, some members have said it was 10% effective because of the delay of transmission. Kasi alam po ninyo, ang GENCO, marami. Ang DU, marami. Pero ang grid, ang highway, iisa. Kayo lang po yan. Kaya ang focus sa inyo eh. Kasi kayo ho yung nag-iisa ron eh. Okay? At ang sinasabi nila, and I will have to, and I'm sure the Honorable President Jesus will admit in the previous hearings of all the DUs na nagre-request ho ng mga franchise renewal, ang lagi ho nilang tinuturo, NGCP. Kaya daw, because of the delay, it's not only 2%. Mas mataas ang effective rate na maapektuhan ang presyo ng kuryente. Now, pwede po ba ako magtanong? Isang tanong lang, Ms. Almeida. Andito man po kayo para magbigay ng solusyon. Paano ho natin mabababa ang kuryente sa ating bansa?
Maybe all the energy family has to work together to put the prices down. Kasi for 3%, we have to talk also to the 97%, Mr. Chairman. So 100% of the whole energy family should discuss and talk. Kami naman on the 3% as the highway will be here. Mr. Chairman, the most important thing here is maybe we can do energy planning as a whole. From transmission, generation, and distribution on where to put our plants para we as transmission know where to go. Hindi ho kami yung naghahabol po sa, kunwari, sa pataas, pababa, pa-left, pa-right. So that it would be also more viable and consistent also on the timeline. Because we have issues also, of course, on the right-of-ways when we pass through. And in any other businesses then po, Mr. Chairman, those are the issues. And issues on permits and everything. Although DOE has been helping us out also on our to-do list on permits. But as a whole, as an energy family, to put the price down, all the sectors has to talk together and put the 97% and the 3% has to work together and work on the price scheme on putting the price down. So, Mr. Chairman, it's a holistic plan. It's just not only as transmission.
But you will have to admit that you're part of that plan. I mean,
Yes, of course,
if you
Mr.
don't cooperate and
Yes,
the
Mr. Chairman.
delays,
Yes.
as presented earlier,
Yes.
you're only 30% compliant.
Yes.
You have a 70% backlog,
Yes.
as they presented earlier. From 250, you've only done
75? Yeah.
75. So you're like you have a backlog of around 70%.
Yeah, can I, yeah.
And
yes.
do you agree that this will cost an increase?
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, we'd like to validate that number also, and we'd like to look the figures that was presented by Transco. Because as far as I'm concerned, there are a number of backlogs also on the approvals that we need. Remember, we're a regulated company, so we need also approvals on all those regulations also. Although, if it is a shortcomings of NGCP, I would admit it right now as the CEO here. But of course, I'd like to look at the numbers also and validate the numbers also. Mr. Chairman, yeah, if
So
that's
you
okay.
confirm that indeed the delays could also bring the prices up?
I haven't worked on that. Yeah, Mr. Chair?
Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman, may I be
Yes.
recognized?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr.
Mr.
Sagayo.
Paul Sagayo Jr.
Yes,
here
please.
from
Please,
NGCP. Thank
Sir
you.
Paul, yes.
Thank you. In the interest of fair play and due process, if I may, Mr. Chairman, this is the first time that we had been seeing all the presentation materials of Transco and IMAP. May we just be given 7 days from today to consult with our consultants, and we will submit the necessary comments. And also, Mr. Chairman, I would just want to, as our President mentioned, we are part of the energy family. And as Congressman Marcoleta mentioned, we are just 3% in the total energy bill. We want to assure this body that when we took over the transmission system, transmission charges had gone down. And before I end, I would like to inform this honorable body that Transco, PISAM, and NGCP entered into a concession agreement. Under 2.01 of the concession agreement, it is clearly provided that Transco has no regulatory powers over NGCP. Just a gentle reminder. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Paul Sagayo. The
Mr.
Honorable
Chairman,
Dan
Mr.
Fernandez,
Chairman,
you have now the floor. You're the next
Sakto.
interpolator.
I just wanted
The
to have
Honorable Dan
a,
Fernandez is recognized.
Sir, before we proceed with interpellation,
Yes.
maybe perhaps here I'd like to hear from the former president of Transco. Kasi po I understand the current Transco administration gave their point of view, but I'd also like to hear from more historical
The
institutional
Honorable Dan
members.
Fernandez.
With the indulgence of the
It's his turn, so he will have to ask that question.
Kay
You-
former Transco.
Are you yielding to the question?
Ask kay, yeah, sure, sure.
Mr. Chair,
So,
if
the
question.
Honorable Matibag, Attorney Matibag, please respond. This is now the time of the Honorable Dan Fernandez. I'd like to remind everyone, it's 5 minutes questions. Time of the question would be 5 minutes. You can go for a second round if needed, except the answer, ha? Hindi kasama answer din, ha? So 5 minutes po tayo. The Honorable Matibag.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
The
What
Honorable
are the rules of this committee in terms of, there's a representative asking a question and using the time of another representative?
No, this is now, that's why I have to, I sought the permission of the Honorable Dan Fernandez. So it's now Dan Fernandez's time. So he agreed. That's also a question.
Representative
Yes.
Fernandez yielding.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Matibag.
Thank you,
Attorney
Mr.
Matibag, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And first of all, salamat po sa inyong imbitasyon at paumanhin na pangatlong beses ako na-imbitahan. This is the first time that I attended this hearing. And I'm glad to be here. I'm here just a former president and now just a consumer at isa pong Pilipino. I was just listening to the report and to the statement of President Almeida and the good lawyer of NGCP. I've heard that report long time ago. That's the same things that they've been saying na magtulungan tayo, magayos tayo. But let me share my experience when I was the president for 5 years. Wala po kaming pagkakataon na nakapasok at na tingnan man lamang ang mga pasilidad ng NGCP na pag-aari ng Transco. Ngayon lamang po ako nakakita na kami yung may-ari ng bahay at gusto mong tingnan kung anong ginagawa sa bahay mo, hindi kayo pwedeng pumasok. I just like to remind everyone, pinag-uusapan natin dito, presyo, 3% ba, 10% ba, ganito yung binayaran. But more than that, this is something that should be a concern of everyone, and that is the national security and the national interest of our country. Alam ninyo, nag-uusap-usap tayo, West Philippine Sea, may nakita tayong mga barko ng China na malalaki. Ito po, hindi na ito kailangan pumasok pa sapagkat nandito sila sa sistema mismo natin ng ating power grid. Nanonood po ako ng hearing ninyo, pinanood ko yung replay. Sinaga ko talagang panoorin. And I was struck by the question of the good Congressman Ace Barbers, which was followed by Congresswoman Luis Tro about the system, the SCADA system, which was replaced by NGCP when they assume. Yung pong existing na mga ano dyan, na mga equipment is General Electric noon, tsaka ABB. Ngayon, pinalitan nila ng NARI. Hindi po kailangang itanong kung may pumasok na armado, terorista. Simple lang po ang tanong ko kay Engineer Clark. Ano ba yung NARI? Proprietary ba yan? Alam nyo ba yung source code? I will make an example para maintindihan po ng publiko. Cellphone. Lahat tayo may cellphone, di po ba? Hardware. This is Apple, iPhone. Anong software? iOS, di ba? Pag nakalimutan mo po, Mr. Chairman, yung password ng iyong cellphone, hindi ba pwede kang mag-message, forgot password, ipapaalala sa'yo? Ibig bang sabihin, yung SCADA ba na ginather, yung mga data ng ating power grid, hindi ba nakikita ng China? 3 control, walang single red button. There was already an incident na nagkaproblema ang power grid natin. It was resolved remotely. Twice already na nangyari. So ano ibig sabihin nito? Remotely pwedeng gawin. Hindi po totoo. Magaling si Engineer Clark, alam ko, na-research ko yung background niya eh. Yung sa mga yung mga performance doon. Pero ang tanong, do you know the source code? Proprietary yan eh. When we made the research, when we made the presentation doon sa Senado, lumabas that NARI is a state-owned company na used by a military. So nag-report kami niyan, December 2019. We were able to capture yung website nila. Yun yung pinipresent ni Congresswoman Luistro. Sabi ko, ito yung dokumentong binigay namin noon sa Senado. Nakita namin. Kiniklaim talaga nila na first overseas nila na paggamit ng equipment at ng SCADA ang Pilipinas. Nung ni-raise namin yung issue sa Senado, February, tingnan nyo ngayon sa website ng NARI kung nandun pa, wala na. But I have the screenshot already. So more than that. Now, yung question naman noon ni Congresswoman nung nanonood ako, Kimbo, the Honorable Congresswoman Kimbo, sinasabi natin 3%. Huwag natin paginitan to. I yield to those position of the honorable members. But hindi po 3% lang pinag-uusapan natin dito. The presentation of IMAP was very clear. Nakita nyo yung diferensya because of the delay. But even before that, there was the study done by Butuan, the power plan of Butuan. I'm sure the good chairman knows about this. Nang diferensya because of the delay of the project of Visayas-Mindanao connection, there is a price difference of 2 pesos compared to Luzon and Visayas. Ano pong basis nito? IPIRA law. Because under the IPIRA law, the WESM, bibilin nila yung excess ng generation. Wag po natin sisihin yung generation. Yung excess po ng generation, binibili ng WESM, during peak, doon binibenta eh. Yung off-peak, binibili nila eh. Yun po yung totoo niyan. Bakit wala sa Mindanao? Dahil ang requirement is there should be an interconnection before magkaroon ng WESM sa Mindanao. Kaya yung presentation ng IMAP na bumaba because there is already interconnected. Bakit? Because under the IPIRA law, ang sabi ng IPIRA law, bibilhin nga. Ano ang nangyari sa Mindanao? Fully contracted. Yung mga excess kailangan bilhin ng electric cooperatives. So, sino nagbabayad? Tayo po, ng mga consumers. So, may I make an appeal, Mr. Chair? Huwag na sabihin, 3% lang yan. Segment lang ang NGCP. I must remind everyone, the only natural monopoly in the entire energy sector and the entire business sa Pilipinas is transmission. Napakarami po yan. Alam niyo po, naririnig ko sa news yung tinitira po kayo sa Kongreso, 777. Alam niyo, mas maganda pong sagot na 77 na pag-usapan. Yung 7 na violation sa concession agreement ng NGCP, yung 7 po na violation ng national security ng NGCP, at yung 7 po na abuse nila as to the financial status ng government natin. Paano natamaan? Bakit nalugi tayo? Ang ganda po ng opening statement ni Mr. Almeda. Binili namin to ng per square. Pero pag binilikan po natin, it violates the IPIRA law. Because under the IPIRA law, dapat maximum value makuha mo eh. That is in the implementing rules ng IPIRA law natin eh. Hindi natin nakuha yung maximum value. Katunayan, we're losing. During the time of Transco, sinisisi natin Transco, delay, ganito, ganyan, kaya natin binigay. Doon pa rin yung delay eh.
Mr. Chair, point of clarification. My clarification is, Transco rin na nagpabid nito eh. Kayo rin, di ba?
Hindi po.
No, yes or no?
Pisam po.
PISAM, because according to the IPIRA law, a cornerstone of IPIRA law was the privatization of the Transco, transferring management of the national grid to private operators who could bring efficiency, innovation, and capital investment. So, joint kayo ng Transco and PISAM who bidded this in 2007 as ito po, clear.
Tama po, Mr. Chair. Unfortunately, Attorney Matibag was not part of Transco at that time.
But,
Because if I was there at that time, I will not allow it.
Yes, but let us be clear, Attorney Matibag. So, before you answer
May I
the
reclaim
question-
my time, Mr. Chairman?
Are you done with your...
Well,
Are you done?
alam nyo, hindi ho tayo matatapos kung gusto nyo.
Oo.
Meron pa po sana kung gustong idagdag.
Mr. Chairman,
I
Mr.
said
Chairman.
there is 7 777.
Mr.
na
Chair.
violation nila.
Okay,
Mr.
thank you
Chair.
very much, Honorable Attorney
So
Matibag.
I'll just wrap up,
Mr.
Mr.
Yes,
Chair.
I will give you 2
Mr.
minutes to
Chair.
wrap up.
Ito kasi yung
Hindi lang
problema,
po.
tinawag niyo po ako rito, nananahimik na ako eh.
Okay.
Kaya nabuksan yung ganito eh. Ako po hindi nagre-represent ng taong
Okay.
bayan na po yung pinag-uusapan dito. In fact, I was a victim of mga white paper and everything during that time. Pero ngayon, wala namang maakusa sa akin ako ipagkakakitaan ko to kung ano man. So, I can speak freely. I'm speaking as a public now. I'm speaking for the Filipino people. When we are singing the national anthem, hindi tayo papayag, di ba? Huwag tayo magpapapi. Hindi na tayo kailangan sakupin. They are there in their system. Because ibinenta natin. Let me cite this. Tama po yung sinasabi nyo. I was very happy last week to find out, to read the news from Reuters. Alam nyo po ba ang ginawa ng United Kingdom? Na dati ang nagpapatakbo rin ay China yung...
Mr. Chair, I think
private
malayo na
company.
yung ano niya, Mr. Chair eh.
Hindi po malayo
So,
yun.
because the question is direct
Wait.
kanina eh.
Dali lang. There's I asked him to wrap up. Please wrap up so we can go back to the Honorable Dan Fernandez.
Privately owned ang transmission ng UK noon. I was redeemed because noong 2017 we're already pushing na dapat government at least the systems operation. Kasi this is include national security. Hindi po ito malayo. In fact, isa pang news, tinanggal ng UK ang NARI system for the same reason that I am saying now. Kung ilalayo natin, sasabihin natin, hindi na tayo Pilipino nito. Pinagbalit na natin ng 30, para pinagbenta na natin sa pilak yung ating bansa.
Thank you very much, Attorney. Pero you will agree, Attorney Matibag, that nung nagkabentahan, Transco was also part of that sale kasama.
It was Pisamo was under it.
But you were not the
Maybe
president.
Maybe we can ask.
Yeah, but you were
Attorney-
not the president.
I was not the president, but,
But, you know,
somebody in the
as-
room can answer it because
Yeah.
Attorney Alabanza was part of Pisamo.
Okay, we will discuss that later.